All right, we've got game two here on a map called Arcane Something or Other. A map made by Cryptos, which is an interesting map. I think the music's pretty annoying. One thing that you'll notice right away, you've got asymmetrical flags. It's basically mirrored, but you've got 3 flags in the northwest. You got 3 flags in the sort of east, southeast region, and you've got your mid flag. So, a couple ways to play this, but generally speaking, mid is not as important typically. You're not going to see in most games of a high caliber 3 Trow just meet up mid and duke it out. You're going to see folks that are making plays. If you're on the south side, obviously you've got some free tags here, and a strategy can be to go aggressive on the opposite side. Whereas if you're on the north side, it's really the opposite version where you likely want to control the mid and east parts of the map to get 5 tags, right? Because anytime you've got 5 tags or more, you are going to have an advantage over the enemy. Important note here at this point, this is a really big map. So if you're in the northeast and need to get to the southwest, as for instance, not that would happen, but it probably will take a Trow 45 seconds, maybe a minute, to make that walk. Fast forwarding a bit, looking at the trades, pretty similar from the looks of it. We've got 2 Morts and 5 Warlocks on the side of Hot Sauce. You've got 6 Locks and 4 Morts, so just slight changes there. Looks like more Mauls on the side of the HOTS team, and that's basically a trade-off where they have fewer Trow. Mystery Men doing some shenanigans here where Karma's holding 3 Trow. No idea if anyone is paying attention on the other team, but it can give the impression, as if for instance, that Mystery Men is doing something where we send 3 Trow in. Eventually, I do give the Trow back. Notice Tyria has named his Trow I Love Karma. That's very sweet. I appreciate the sentiment. I did not name my Trow after you, but maybe in a future match, we'll think about it. So, Mystery Men is now out of the gate. They are sending 2 Trow mid. We've got pretty standard units dispersing here. Clearly, to this side, we've got more of a hold, smaller unit sets, where we've got Tyria and some Mercs set up to be a little bit more aggressive, potentially on the west side. Immediately, we see 1 Trow mid. Versus my 2. So just doing some dancing. Not a lot going on other than that. But what you see here in the background, what Mystery Men has not yet seen, is Hot Sauce has a significant chunk of units hidden behind mid. So we're looking at 36%. So you've got Gecko plus HMP plus Shyster. Actually plus Stalander, so it's 73%. Basically, almost their entirety of their team, absent some tagging melee here off to the side, is hidden behind mid. So everything is concentrated on the side of Hot Sauce, as you saw. Of Mystery Men. We're way more spread out, which could potentially be a challenge. So fast forwarding a bit, at this point we see some of the additional units. I am putting some pressure here on Genghis' Crids. Okay trade. We lose a little bit of Trow health. We kill 2 Crids. I think that's pretty unimportant in the overall scheme of things. We now see that they've got 1 Trow over on the west side, and then the rest of their 80% starts on a mid push. Tags at this point, pretty even. Hot Sauce has a slight advantage because they've managed to push us off of mid. That's countered by our ability to hold the west flag for now. I think Tyria is pretty evenly matched with EW, but at this point he sees mid is being pushed back very aggressively, so he starts to come forward. So at this point, the only thing that Mystery Men can do is try to fall back and die as slowly as possible, where Hot Sauce is able to be quite aggressive. So we've got a pretty good shot by HMP, takes out a couple of souls. We've got a good block by Blade, which protects his Trow. We've got a few kicks here, almost a magic dirt incident that would have made me rage quit. The Mercs here are basically a very similar color. So looks like Mystery Men, unfortunately, shot our own units, which, that happens from time to time. Percent-wise, though, pretty even, 7% lead from the HOTS squad. At this point, Thierry's got more mercs chasing East Wind, which is good. The eastern side of the map is pretty secure, and Mysterymen actually have a tagger going to get the northeast flag, so that's great. They are responding on the hot sauce side by, of course, sending some tagger. Genghis asks Shyster to shadow me. Most likely, he was in fear for his life and asked his more senior, more skilled teammate to cover me. But at this point, yeah, I mean, it's Mysterymen up on flags, down slightly in percent. In general, I like our positioning here pretty well, at least at this exact moment, where we've got all these flags. We outnumber their taggers, so we should be able to quickly grab that flag back. Genghis does make an interesting call to leave and go east. That's good. His trow's already pretty hurt, and he's going to have a shot at doing some damage if he goes that direction. Thierry and East Wind continue to dance. And at this point, we're stuck here. Very few mercs are left as we've split up, which is interesting. It looks like our East has kind of abandoned the fight and chosen to separate and go for tags. And we've got a whole bunch here chasing a relatively smaller percent. We do notice that Limp is split out here. Genghis tells Limp not to worry, that Shyster's shadowing me. Right before Shyster decides to pay Limp back for all those years of dealing with angsty behavior in the early 2000s. I can only imagine. Limp does get kicked at this point. Again, just taking a look at the percentages, it's dead even, with Hot Sauce with a small lead of 30 seconds on time. So that basically doesn't even matter at this point in the game. You can make up 3 minutes, let alone 30 seconds. But let's see, more of the same. Probably a silly trade there on the trow. Taking a couple maul hits just for one kick. Trow health-wise, Shyster is very healthy. Thierry is suggesting that we rush mid. I don't know who he thinks is going to rush mid with him, but I guess it would be possible. Meanwhile, it looks like we lost the battle with East Wind. So Thierry, I thought, had more mercs, but he somehow lost some trow health. It was probably a pathfinding issue. This map does have many of those. Carmen also continued to retreat into the southwest. We've got Blade chasing Genghis' pretty red trow. But in general, again, I mean, still pretty good shape. We've got a bigger tag pack in Arsenic. We've got control over the southeast. The thing we're missing is this mid flag. But still, up in flags, dead even percent at 73 apiece. Quite a close game. So, speeding this along. Yeah, I mean, if you were to freeze this right this second, I think it would be very hard to pick a winner in terms of who's going to pull this off. You do have a really big chunk of units. So we look at this. We've got Gecko, Shyster, Thalander. Yep, all here. So that is 18. That's 28% chasing 16%. So we got a 12%, I guess, unit lead from the Hot Sauce team in the Southwest. In theory, that means that we've got a 12% advantage elsewhere on the map. So I think it's still looking okay at this point for the Mysterymen. Speed up a bit. More posturing. Hot Sauce has had control over the mid for basically the entire game. It's not really an area that we challenged. We do have some really healthy mauls here that would be able to take some damage. Quite a few mercs. Again, no threat, actually, other than a very red trow. So at this point, Genghis is now in trowing mode. Tagging mode, rather. But yeah, not a huge threat. At this point, this fight is clearly lost. As we mentioned, they've dedicated quite a bit of percent. So LSO is left to his doom. We've got Thierry attempting a rush of EW's Trow, looks like. Okay, did not go great, but still almost even in Trow. He's down a bit. We did manage to get one of the locks. At this point, 1% lead. We've got Mysteryman now splitting the Trow. It looks like LSO has one that he's taking on a tagging adventure of his own. Still 61%. Basically dead even in flags. Less than a 5-second differential on time. It's hard to imagine how this could be closer. Valander's left hanging here. We come in for a few kicks. Gives us a slight unit lead. Again, at this point, Mysteryman is up 4%. EW, however, actually Limp, is now coming with EW, sending quite a bit up here to the northwest. So we've got a yellow Trow versus a Andy Greed Chow versus a yellow Trow in just a few units. Now it's even in percent, so just fast forwarding. Gingus's red Trow is still alive. So is LSO's at this point. Looks like we are trying to snag some tags, but again, in an okay spot. Up 3%, but I think here is where it all starts to go wrong a bit. EW and Limp are able to collapse. So you've got, again, if we just take a quick snapshot of the percentages of who's here, you got Blade with 5%, Donsky with 2%, and Karma with 8%. So a total of 15%. We've got East Wind, we've got Shyster, we've got Thalander, and we've got Gecko, as well as a couple of Mercs up here that were Limps. So you've got, let's see, what is that, around 30%. All focused on this northwest region. Meanwhile, Mysterymen are attempting to corral some of these maps. Some of these flags with just 2 minutes left. Still in the lead, just slightly, 57 to 54%. But Mysterymen quickly finds themselves getting pinched. Unfortunately, Donsky is left out to dry for the second game in a row. Didn't really have much of a choice but to take this fight. At that point, the Mercs are going to get run down. So now, again, they are pretty concentrated in the northwest. So I'm wondering if we had been able to secure a bit more tags at some point along the way. It could have been a little bit closer. We are looking to rush mid, I guess, as this Trow dies in the northwest. Hot Sauce now has a flag lead as they managed to capture all of the west flags. They managed to have a tag on all three of the east flags as well. Arguably, our mid-rush here may have been ill-intentioned. We could have stayed on those southeast flags. Might have made a closer, absolute last finish here. But end of the day, I think Hot Sauce cleaning up on this fight on the northwest, ending up with control over all three of those flags is really what puts them over the top and puts them in a commanding 2-0 lead for the series. So snapshot, end of the day, it looks like a 4-minute win from the Hot Sauce side. Interesting strategy. Unlike Kavur, I don't know that the strategy itself is what won them the game, but it did put them in an interesting position where they were able to dictate pace. I think, from a mid-game adjustment perspective, it might have made more sense for Mysterymen to try to stay closer together instead of breaking up quite as far, just to try to out-BC them a bit in that initial game. But overall, good job from Lim's team. I think all around, pretty well-rounded effort. HMP putting up the most impressive damage at 62. Shyster and Genghis and Eastwind all did about the same when it comes to damage with those particular Trow. On the Mysterymen side, looks like Karma and Donsky had respectable games. And no real bumbles of note, at least as far as I can tell. With that, again, 2-0. We'll look at game 3.